Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to continue talking about Nikola Jokic, in particular Nikola Jokic in the post down here, and different ways that Denver is getting good looks because of it. Last week we talked about cuts right here that we're going to see from Michael Porter Jr., cuts from when the help comes from the front side. And today we're going to talk about the next extension, very, very similar, and that's going to be shooting when that help comes from that same location of the front side. Let's go. So ironically, that first example that we looked at actually showed a good example of both things that we're talking about. In the first one, we see OKC's defense is they're going to help here. The reason this causes a lot of strain on the defense and why I'm a huge advocate for having a shooter be this person right here is because if your defense isn't exactly synced where everyone's supposed to go, it's not clear who the rotation is, and you're going to wind up with very often a really, really wide open shot for whoever this shooter is out here. So here we see kind of SGA gets there late, and it wasn't really clear. I think SGA just kind of made the read that he was going to be open and sprinted out there. But either way, it's a clean look for Michael Porter Jr. who rises up. And so one thing I really want to highlight here is, so first off, we can see kind of the miscommunication. SGA just leaves and goes, which is a good job by SGA by recognizing that in the first place. But the one thing I really like that Michael Porter did right there is he didn't sit here where it's a farther pass and it's an easier closeout for SGA. He made SGA rotate by moving towards where Jokic is to make it a farther closeout and change the angle that is closing out to give him a little bit more space to get that shot up in the first place. Now he misses it, and this is the other thing that we talked about last week, which is the cut with Michael Porter Jr. when SGA goes. Those are the two sides of the same coin. And this is why I personally am a huge fan of having Jamal Murray or maybe Cam Johnson be the person that's closest to Jokic, for when they go double, they're going to be the one that gets the open shot. So here we're going to see the double here. That's going to come from Washington. Okay? If we look at these other defenders, like none of them are really in a good position where they can sprint over here to make it so Strother doesn't have an open look because the distance is too far. And then Strother is doing that same concept. Okay? When he goes to double, Strother should move this way, and he does slightly. He doesn't really even have to because the defender's so far away. But in general, that's a good concept to float this way. But again, we see this huge space because this defender leaves and the defense on the other side just simply is not ready. If there's no communication, if they're not prepared for it, they're going to wind up with open shots for good shooters out there. And OKC actually last year applied the same tactic quite a bit, especially when Chet was the one on Jokic. So they're going to come from this near side defender, okay? After Brown clears out, to make sure Lou Dort isn't the one coming is important as well. Okay, so we're going to see Denver slowly get in the correct position. Okay, they get in their position. Caruso, right here, what is he doing with his arm? He's telling Isaiah Joe that, are you ready? Because I'm going to go. And essentially, you have to be the one that gets to Michael Porter Jr. because Caruso is going to go here. And so this gap has to be cleared. And so that's what Caruso is trying to communicate right now. So he thinks that they're all on the same page. Okay, so he goes. That's why he pointed there. What is Isaiah Joe doing? Nothing. This is why it's so difficult where the defense has to be completely in sync. Otherwise, you're just going to give up wide open shots to Michael Porter Jr., which obviously you can't do and have a really good defense. And so we can actually watch Isaiah Joe's reaction right here. And he knows that he made a mistake. You can see he bends down. He puts his hand up right here. He knows that that was his fault. And so that shows what the rotation is supposed to be in the ideal world and how it wasn't there in that situation. And our final example right here, and this one's frankly, I think, the most inexcusable of all of them. We're going to see it's actually going to fall down to Lou Dort right here. And this is why Russell Westbrook is so kind of an X factor when it comes to this, because you can leave him on the perimeter. And so as SGA is going to go right here, the read is going to be for Lou Dort to get here. And the reason, like, he should be there early and aggressively because he's on Russell Westbrook, who OKC doesn't really care if he shoots a three on the perimeter. But so the fact that Lou Dort is a little bit off here and delayed is like, that's, not a great sign. But the one thing that is important is Michael Porter Jr. does a good job where he drifts this direction to make it so Lou Dort isn't just closing out right here where it's 3 steps away, 2 steps away. Now he has to close 4 steps, and he has to angle slightly to make it so that it's a tougher closeout, and Michael Porter Jr. gets a clean look because of the double that OKC went with. So now in separate videos, we've talked about Jokic going early to beat the double team. We talked about the defense not rotating and Jokic getting easy pass to the baseline. And then we've talked about Jokic with if the front side double comes, whether that be the offensive player cutting or the offensive player shooting a three out there on the perimeter. The next one we're going to talk about is what we saw in that clip right there, which is going to be the corner three. And this is probably the most likely of all the threes that we see when defenses choose to double. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a blessed rest of your day.